A three-time Grammy Award winner, guitarist Steve Vai, started his career in 1978 as a transcriptionist for Frank Zappa. He was only 18 years old. He attended Berklee College of Music in Boston then, and Zappa needed to write down his songs, mostly basic melodies, to protect his copyrights. So Zappa put Steve Vai on a salary, which was $250 a week. Then Steve Vai joined Frank Zappa as a session and touring guitarist. He actually played with Zappa from 1980 to 1983. How much did Frank pay his musicians during that time? On one of the online forums, bass player Scott Thunes, who played in Zappa's band from 1981 to 1988, revealed how much Frank paid. Scott was also a young musician as Steve Vai. They are the same age. Here's what Scott said. I got paid scale for all 3 studio recordings. Cocaine Decisions, recorded during my first audition, Valley Girl, and Turning Again. If I recall, that was about $149, no royalties. First day of rehearsals, 1981, Frank sat us all down and said, I'm recording every show, but I'm not paying out for it. If you don't like it, you can leave. None of us did. All subsequent live recordings were unpaid, no royalties. He did say that he'd be paying into a fund that paid out to musicians, something we would have gotten anyway, rated by how many minutes of music you appeared on. For several years, I'd magically get a check from anywhere between $300 and $900 annually when an album came out. That only lasted for a few years, then stopped. I got paid $1,000 a week 1981, $1,100 a week 1982, $1,200 a week in 1984. Only reason we all got a massive raise in 1988 was that the drummer said he was making more than what we would logically be getting in studio work, so Frank gave us all $2,000 a week except for the new guys, meaning the Jazz Holes and Mike Keneally. Here is a story Scott told. The first day Scott got the gig, he met someone at the Rainbow Bar and Grill and told him about his new amazing gig with Frank Zappa. And the guy told him, too bad. He pays crap. Big name artists like Prince and the Boss paid their sidemen $10,000 a week. So Scott thought that Frank didn't pay his musicians well enough. According to Scott Thunes, Frank never gave credit for improvisation backgrounds, only salaries and rehearsal per diem for not living in Los Angeles, no royalties. However, from Zappa's perspective though, a lineup of around 5 to 7 core musicians is an expense of $7,000 to $8,400 a week in retainers for his band. Not cheap. For information, $1,000 in 1981 is worth about $3,500 today. Of course, you can't become a millionaire on that, but it's not bad at all for a hired musician. Big name artists like Prince had funding from the major labels and management deals they were signed to, whereas Frank Zappa was funding the whole thing from his own pocket. He had his own label, Barking Pumpkin Records, which he founded in 1981. So that's how much Frank Zappa paid his musicians. During Steve Vai's stint with Zappa, he was saving his money. When he left in 1983, he saved up enough money for a down payment on a little house in Sylmar, a remote LA suburb. There he built his own studio. Steve bought a 2-track tape recording machine from Frank for $5,000. According to Steve, he had borrowed the money from his parents. In that studio, Steve Vai recorded his first solo record, Flexible. Steve Vai once said in an interview that he has a rule. Always put aside 10% of everything that came in, no matter what. No exceptions. When he was getting $250, he put aside $25. And another rule, always live below your means. Steve Vai says he never had any financial troubles because he always used these 2 simple rules. If you're making $5 million a year and you're living on $5,100,000, then you're in trouble. But if you live below your means, then the finances will never be a big problem. And looks like $5 million is more or less Steve's annual income, or at least it was during the successful years.